Hey guys, what's going on? Today I would like to talk about how I convinced my parents that I should get a motorcycle. And from what I understand, this is a common problem amongst minors who want motorcycles. So before I get into that, I would like to apologize again about yesterday with the microphone. Made me feel real stupid rolling down the highway, and I go home, there's no audio. So, and the wind noise should be a little bit better too. Not because I'm in traffic, but because I got a windshield for the microphone. So, how I convinced my parents. First, a little backstory. My dad had motorcycles when he was a kid, and he had to convince his parents as well. He had an RD 250, which I believe is made by Yamaha, and of course he came off of that multiple times. So my dad, you know, he's already a motorcycle rider, and so it wasn't that hard to convince him. It was my mom that was the hardest to convince, just because she heard the stories of my dad, you know, crashing on his. So my dad and I had to devise a plan to be able to get my mom okay with it. So what did we do? We went behind her back, and we went to the DMV. I took my permit test, and then we decided maybe we should tell my mom. And so, you know, I let him kind of warm her up a little bit before I start opening up my mouth. So she's already kind of on my side about it, and we had to tell her about, you know, the MSF course, which is the Motorcycle Safety Foundation, for those of you who don't know. So I told her I would take that course if she would let me get a bike. Now, I wasn't allowed to get anything big. I had to get a 250cc motorcycle, which ended up being this bike's younger sister, however it works. And it was a 2002, so it was before their sport bike looking upgrade. Still had the square headlight and all that. It was a 2002 Ninja 250. So I'm looking around, and you know, at this point I already have my permit and all that. And at the MSF course they provide motorcycles, so I didn't need one yet. Once I passed that, then I got my license, which is fairly easy since I took the MSF course. I didn't need to take the DMV safety course, which is good because it's very common for you to hear that the DMV course is a lot harder than the MSF course, which I don't know. I have never taken the DMV course. So anyway, back to the bike. I'm looking around on Craigslist, which I refuse to do now because of this bike, the 250. And I find one, and it's looks fine in the pictures, right? And he only wants $1,000. So I go down there with the Grand, and I'm looking at it, and I brought my friend who rode motorcycles, just because he was, you know, he knew a lot more about it than I did. So he tells me, you shouldn't buy this bike. It had glue holding up the taillight. It had K&N air filters that had been squeezed, and, you know, super poor ventilation. But I was excited, and I wanted to hurry up and get a motorcycle. I was tired of waiting. So I buy it. And my friend rode it home, since at that time I hadn't been able to. So he rides it home for me, and I'm, you know, ecstatic about having a motorcycle. Well, the bike only lasted about a year and a half. I ended up, you know, putting a lot more money than what I bought it for into it to fix it up. And what I thought had happened at the time, I'm sorry, but I don't see why this guy needs to move his body. Like, move the bike. Bike is what needs to move. So anyway, I start dumping in all this money, getting it, you know, running great again. And one day after work, I was running out of gas, like terribly low on gas, and I decide to floor the bike to get to the gas station, because this bike had broken down on me so many times that I was tired of pushing it. And so I floor it, and I fill it up with gas, go to start it up, won't start. So I end up having to push it home anyway. So I push it home, and I try, you know, push starting it at home and all that. Nothing. So at that point, I've just given up. And so I put it on Craigslist. My dad's saying, you know, it'll never sell, it's not running. Within 3 hours, I had a buyer. Of course, I only put the bike up for $300 just because I thought the engine was seized, and there was just no point in trying to save it. Now, after some of these classes I've been taking, I've been learning about carbureted engines, and what I believe happened was vapor lock, which is basically when air gets into the fuel system and kind of clogs everything up. So if I had taken, you know, some of the vacuum hoses out and all that, I may have been able to fix it. But I took that $300 that I made, plus another $400 that I had saved up, and I go out and I buy the Suzuki. And it was my first financed motorcycle. I bought it in 2010, but it was a 2009 model with 1 mile on it. So technically a brand new motorcycle. And I had that for 5 years. And now, here we are today. So, I guess, just as a tip, just wrapping everything up, definitely start small. Looking back on it, I wouldn't recommend starting on a 250. They get great gas mileage, but you're just gonna get bored so quickly. So I would recommend starting on a 500 and then either making the jump to a 600 or whatever else you want. This bike that I have right now, the ZX10, is the most powerful bike that I've ever ridden. So I wouldn't know if the Hayabusa or the ZX14, if those are, you know, I don't know how they are compared to the ZX10. So my knowledge extends to 1000. But for a tip of trying to convince your parents or your parent or your legal guardian, just stress that you're going to be safe, because that's all they're worried about is you coming off and crashing and hurting yourself. So that's my advice to you. So until next time, just remember, respect your bike, ride safe, and keep the rubber side down. Man, that'd be some shit. One of these cars unhooked and fell on me. Oh, you're gonna keep coming, aren't you? No? Yeah. I knew it. I knew it. Woo! I was only first and second, and I was already going 80 something.